Hi everyone, my name's Daryl. So back in August of 2019, on a Friday afternoon, everything was normal. Later that day, I felt a little bit of pain in my lower back, and within a couple of days, I could no longer really walk. And I ended up being diagnosed with Guillain-Barré about a month later because I went to the ER and everybody was really confused about what was going on with me. But my neurologist kind of straightened things out and got me a treatment, and slowly but surely I got better. A year later, I was re-diagnosed with CIDP after a really bad relapse. And so 3 years later, here I am. You can see I'm getting treatment now. I have this IVIG treatment basically every 3 weeks. And what I've been doing, me and a partner of mine who also has CIDP, is we've been doing a series of videos. And it seems like basically whenever I have my treatment, I decide it's time to do another video. So what we're going to talk about today in this video is we're going to talk about some of the resources that are available to you as both the Guillain-Barré or CIDP patients. So one of the first really important resources that you should be taking advantage of is your doctors, your nurses. Typically for Guillain-Barré and CIDP patients, a lot of times you have more or less a kind of a, what you would call an interdisciplinary team, where really we require a team in order for us to manage our condition. So you typically have a doctor, you have a nurse that usually is helping with your treatment plan. You have a doctor that diagnoses you initially. You might have physical therapists or occupational therapists that help you do therapy, that helps you physically try to get better so that you can be able to do certain tasks. You have psychiatrists that often help with the mental aspects of things. And of course, the doctor that probably diagnosed you would be your neurologist. And he's going to do a number of tests on you. And so understanding what those tests are, becoming knowledgeable in what the tests mean, I think help you understand the condition a little bit better. So really becoming very close with all of these doctors and folks that help take care of you are really important. I've got really close connections with the nurses. I have IVIG and I have home therapy. And so once every 3 weeks, I get a nurse that comes and visits me. And they've helped me so much in better understanding the condition. For instance, I used to have a really hard time getting my catheter into my vein. And so my nurse really helped me to better prepare for my infusions. And now I've been getting basically a single poke every time for getting my catheter in, which is really great. And so having those relationships with the folks that help take care of you, your doctors, your nurses, your therapists, are so important. And I really hope that you take advantage of the specialty and the knowledge that these folks can bring to the table. So the second resource that I want to bring your attention to, and it's probably something, this organization that most of us patients know about, whether you have Guillain-Barré or CIDP, it's called the GBS CIDP Foundation International. And it's a nonprofit organization that provides resources to the patients of both Guillain-Barré, CIDP, as well as their caregivers, the doctors, the nurses, the folks that take care of them. They have resources for basically all of these different types of people. And so I want to talk about some of the resources that I've used that have been very helpful to me. The first one, and the first resource that I really used, was their liaison program. And I think they might call it something a little bit different now. It's kind of a volunteer. And it's somebody local, typically. So my liaison was here in Las Vegas. And it's somebody that has gone through the same things that you are going through and have volunteered to help with other patients in their area. And so, yeah, I called her. left a message, and she called me back that same night. I think it was like, I don't know, it was like 8 or 9 o'clock that she called me back, which was great. I was kind of feeling really down. And she must have spent 2 or 3 hours talking to me, listening to what I had to say. You know, I think I might have cried actually a little bit when we were talking, because I was going through so much. I was really having a hard time understanding what was happening and whether or not I was ever going to get better. And having this person to have a conversation with that has gone through a very similar experience for me was just so helpful. And so, yeah, I would recommend that you use that resource because it was really helpful to me. The second thing that I really found helpful was they have a number of publications that they make available to patients, caregivers, physicians that really talk about Guillain-Barré, CIDP, multifocal motor neuropathy, whichever condition that you have. They have a document that talks about how it's diagnosed, what the treatments are, what the outcomes might be, all of those sorts of things that are so useful for you to get more educated about what you have, what you can try to do to get better, what the treatments are going to be. So even before I started treatment, you know, I kind of better understood the condition. I understood what they were going to give me, what the side effects could be, all of those kinds of things. And so, you know, becoming better educated on the condition that you have is just going to make you a better patient and hopefully, you know, make the situation better understandable and hopefully be a little more patient and hopefully get better as we all get better, but we all most of the time get better slowly. So the other resource that the GBS CIDP Foundation has is this thing called Ask the Experts video series, where they have certain folks that have specialty knowledge in a particular area, and you can ask questions beforehand and they'll actually answer the questions that you have during the video. And so that is really super helpful. They'll have doctors on, they'll have they've had manufacturers of different drugs on, they've had insurance companies on, all kinds of different resources that, you know, will kind of approach the condition from a different area, but once again, you'll become a lot more knowledgeable about your condition. They have conferences, both regional and national conferences, where people all get together and talk about the condition. They'll provide workshops. A lot of times patients go to these things. I've never been to one of them. You know, it's a little bit expensive to go to some place out of state. But one of the things they have is, and they've just started doing this, I think, is they have a virtual conference, which is free. So you sign up for the virtual conference, and one day of the conference, they'll provide workshops specifically for you as patients to help better understand, you know, kind of what's going on, if there's any sort of new things that are happening, new treatments, and having access to those doctors and those resources in this kind of session are really helpful. I want to make sure that I didn't forget anything here. Oh, and they also have this thing called the Center of Excellence. And so I don't know if I can say necessarily they've partnered with hospitals, but they recognize that certain hospitals are better suited to treat this condition than other hospitals. So hospitals that are typically a research-based kind of university medical program that have lots of different doctors that can treat and have specialty knowledge in neuromuscular types of conditions that are better treated to both diagnose and to better understand and treat the disease, and are kind of at the, I guess you could say, the leading edge of you know, what's happening in regards to patient care for our condition. So let's say your doctor is kind of at a stumbling block and maybe you peaked at your improvement and you're not getting any better. They might be able to talk to a doctor from the Center of Excellence or send you to one of these Center of Excellence locations for you to get more specialty, and they would be able to communicate with your doctor about maybe a different type of way to treat your condition that might have a little better outcome. And so, yeah, I think that's really great. And, you know, you have to, as one of these hospitals, to get this designation, you have to meet certain criteria in order for you to be one of these Center for Excellences. And so, yeah, I'd encourage you to take advantage of all the resources that the GBS CIDP Foundation has to give. So this next resources that I'm going to talk about is similar to the liaison, where you could talk to somebody. And it's more of like a news group, like a news forum, where the GBS CIDP Foundation has a news group. I didn't find it to be all that active, and so I looked out for other kinds of news groups. And Facebook has the Facebook groups, and they have a lot of different communities, a lot of different groups that are GBS CIDP related. Some of them focus only on Guillain-Barré patients. Some of them focus only on CIDP patients. Some of them focus on both. I think I'm at least a member of like 8 of these groups. One of the reasons I'm a member of all these groups is I just try to, as I create this YouTube content, I try to, you know, put them out in these groups as much as I can so I can get some eyes on this content and hopefully, you know, share the knowledge that I've gained with other people. But the big thing that you benefit from these different Facebook groups is all of these people have, in some way or another, have a similar experience to you. The one thing about Guillain-Barré and CIDP is there might be kind of a standard kind of definition for, you know, how it's diagnosed and typically how the way it goes through the body and the typical kinds of symptoms. But what I've learned with both Guillain-Barré and CIDP is no patient ever really has necessarily the same experience. They can have close, but a lot of times the experiences are a lot different. In my case, I had something that is kind of a combination of both Guillain-Barré and CIDP. So I very much had an acute kind of disease, which was originally diagnosed as Guillain-Barré, because I went from basically being normal to in 2 days almost not being able to walk. So that is very acute. But then it kept going on and on and on. So it lasted for more than 8 weeks until I got treatment, and then I started to get better. So everybody's experience is a little bit different. And so you can post questions on these Facebook groups, and a lot of times you'll get a lot of responses. You can simply complain and look for a shoulder to cry on, you know, about what you're experiencing. I literally, when this first started happening to me and I was diagnosed and I understood what it was, I was like, why, God, are you doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? I was so mad, and I screamed, I yelled, I cried. But having these people that have had a similar experience understand where you're coming from and can really help you better deal with what's going on. And so I would, you know, advise you, I would recommend that you take advantage of these groups to become more educated, more knowledgeable from folks that have been going through this, perhaps a lot longer than you have, and also just look for it also for support, because these folks really understand what you're going through and can really help with that. Along those similar lines is the internet, the Google, right? I'm one of these older guys. I call everything internet related. I call it the Google, the YouTube. So yeah, I'm part of that. I'm part of that baby boomer generation, I guess you could call us. And I found, so you can Google stuff and you can find a lot of really good information about our conditions, but I found YouTube to be very, very helpful. There was a doctor, his name was Kenneth Gorson, and I believe he was like either president or vice president at some point. I think it was around 2015 of the Guillain-Barré or the GBS CIDP Foundation. He was certainly on the board of doctors. I can't remember what they're called. physicians, board of physicians, I can't remember. But he put out a really good video. If you look at it, I'll have a link to it in the description of this video. And I'll actually have pretty much all the resources that I'm talking about here. I'll put it in the description so you can easily click on them to find these resources. But he created a video called Managing Your CIDP. And this was, I think, still is one of the most comprehensive videos that talked about CIDP, talked about the diagnosis of it, talked about the treatment of it, talked about how you would possibly start to wean off or titrate off of the IVIG or whatever treatment plan that you're on. So many things. And it was about a 45 or 50-minute interview where he talked about the condition. And then afterwards, he took some questions. So he did some question and answer at the end of the session. But I have literally watched this video at least 3 or 4 times because of, the knowledge that he has. And he puts it out in such a way that it's not that technical, that it's really easy to understand. And so I would recommend that you take a look at this video if you haven't already, just because it is really so good. So let me make sure I haven't missed anything on my list of resources here. Oh, I did. So the other thing that you want to look at, certain manufacturers have co-pay assistance programs. So the medication that we typically are on are very expensive. So IVIG, I think, cost around $10,000 if I didn't have insurance per treatment every 3 weeks. And so, yeah, I could never afford that. And even the co-pays, until you've met your deductible and your max out-of-pocket expensive, are very expensive. But certain manufacturers have co-pay assistance programs that can help with that. I actually applied, I use GammaGuard, GammaGuard IV, and they do have a copay assistance program, but unfortunately for the GammaGuard product, which kind of sucks because all IVIG products are basically the same for the most part, but their GammaGuard, the product is only approved by the FDA for the treatment of multifocal motor neuropathy. And so, yeah, I wasn't able to get copay assistance for this program, but when I talked to my insurance company, they actually have kind of a copay assistance program. They work with another company called Save on SP. And so I enrolled within Save on SP, and I actually don't have copays for my treatment, which is really great. So, make sure you research that because this treatment is very expensive. Yeah, you can, a lot of times you can defer some of the cost of your treatment through copay assistance programs. So I think that's it. Yeah, so I think I've pretty much got most of the resources. If you are watching this video and if I've left some really important resources out, please make sure that you put a comment either on YouTube or Facebook to say, hey, I found also this additional resource that I think was really helpful to me and you should check it out. The more folks that share information for other patients to better understand what's going on with them, I really appreciated this. So whether it's a patient, whether it's another doctor, a nurse, a physical therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, whoever you are, if you have additional information that you think would be helpful for the community to share, I'd really appreciate you sharing to help others out. And so if you got value from this video, please like it. The more YouTube sees that a video is liked, the more likely it's to take that content and send it out to other YouTube watchers. And I'm hopeful that the content that I'm creating will help other folks out there. And by sending it out to more people, I get to help more people, which makes me feel really good. And please consider also subscribing to my channel. Actually, this is our channel. I'm doing these videos with Julie. She's not on this particular video, but should be on the next one. And she is really great. She's been dealing with this disease even longer than I have. And she is a wealth of knowledge. And she's even a better talker than I am. So you'll certainly appreciate her. And so also consider subscribing to our channel, as we have a lot of additional videos that are going to be coming out, and you don't want to miss any of the content. And I hope to see you in the next one again very soon.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.